Greg, why don't you just go ahead and do the open for me?
Okay. One final time. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the best in the world, Matt Plapp.
Wow, that's the greatest introduction ever.
Was for Shane McMahon.
It was.
I had to do it at WrestleMania. And then subsequently, weeks and weeks and weeks after that on Friday Night SmackDown.
So here we are. This is MPTV with the newest team member of America's Best Restaurants, our newest host. Greg, tell everybody who you are. Because I don't know. I was going to explain who you are, but I'm like, you just need to do it because that big-ass voice just told him that you're somebody more than just some guy we found in Cincinnati that likes food.
That's fair. Although the second part of that is true also. I join you from the WWE. I was the ring announcer and host for Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. I was with WWE for 7 years, toured the world, 49 states, 6 continents. It was a pretty incredible ride.
Wow.
Now, my goal in life, this goes back to my entire hosting career. My goal has been to do a show about food and about travel. And specifically, I'm a big believer in the independent restaurant scene. I live in OTR in Cincinnati, which if you don't know what that is, it's an area that is made up of local chef owner, restaurant proprietors, store owners, 5 coffee shops. Not one is a commercial coffee shop. They're all locally owned. And then I travel all the way around the world to find everything I've been looking for in my backyard. And that's here.
And ironically, our headquarters 4 years ago was like a block from where you live.
Yeah.
And over the ride, the reason you saw the van was because I had taken Scott, one of our team members from Canada, came in town for a team retreat, and I took him and 3 or 4 others up to OTR. We went to the Pony.
Yep. That's right near me.
I mean, their French fries are fire, and their chicken tenders.
Chicken tenders are unreal.
Hot barbecue. And then we went to the Eagle.
Yeah.
We had bacon, and we had cornbread, and we had chicken, and then we went to Grater's. I feel like we went one more place, but that was like the little – that's you had looked out your window and were like, oh, what's America's Best Restaurants?
I still have that picture on my phone somewhere.
You took a picture of it?
I took out of my window of my loft.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
And I sent it to my buddy Tony. My buddy Tony's kind of who introduced me to the whole thing with you and what you guys were doing, and that, this show is expanding. I mean, it's a rocket ship right now, and they're looking for a host. And I had just taken that picture. So before I knew about this hosting opportunity, I took that picture because we had discussed you before. Huh. So it's like it's the universe. Like, I'm a big universe guy.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to me, it was the universe because I still can't believe it. I took that picture a month or two before you and I even had a discussion.
And I'll never forget because we're driving to Detroit, Michigan. We had the Tough Mudder, myself and Logan and Doug, and I'm missing Austin. And we were picking Darren up at the airport in Detroit. And David calls me. And he goes, hey, I know you're driving, but you got to have somebody open your email. There's an application that just came in for host because we've had hundreds of people apply for host.
Right.
And it's because they like food, so no problem there. But nobody's really had a reel attached to it. Mm-hmm. We had a couple, but not to this extent. You got to watch it. And so, okay. So I think we pulled over and trained drivers or something. Did something. So I watched the video. And I told Doug, I'm going to screw with David. I'm not going to call him because he's like, watch it and call me back. And I know how I know how he is because he's excited because he's like internally the one that just takes a hold of the content, the editing, and everything. He's built it from ground up, the filming and editing. And I'm like, watch, I'm not going to call him back. It was like a 4 or 5 minute video, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call him back. And he's going to be wondering, what the hell am I calling back for? And so like 20 minutes later, he calls me. Did you watch it? Like, watch what? Like,
yeah, I don't have time.
Yeah, I watched it. What'd you think? I'm like, it's okay. And the whole time I was like cracking up because it was badass.
Oh, thank you.
And you could just hear him like, what? It's okay. And I'm like, dude, I'm screwing with you. It's unbelievable. Who the hell is this guy? He's like, I don't know. He just applied. There's the reel. And so I did what I've done. I've notoriously done this for a long time. So in the consulting world, I'll have a lot of business reach out. Matt, we want to talk to you about our marketing. Can we come in and meet? And I used to, early on, I would research everything. So when they came in for that meeting, I had everything figured out.
Yeah.
And I found out real quick that was the wrong approach because I was guns a-blazing and I didn't have context to what I saw online.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? So nowadays, like when people call me up and say, I want to talk about my restaurant, I have a conversation. And I go, did you look at my website? I don't look at anything. I want you to tell me what you've got going. And that way I'll take that, go research it, put a story together, go from there.
Yeah.
So you come in And you come in the interview, and we're sitting in my office, and I've never had this shit happen before. Like, we're sitting there talking, and next thing I know, you're like standing up, and you're like doing a little episode in front of me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I had a little chub. I gotta be honest. I mean, I was a little excited because I'm like, wow, what the hell? This guy's like the big real deal. And I had recognized you from somewhere, and I saw on some of your stuff WWE, but like a lot of people put stuff down.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, I did this. You know, like, hey, I had an appearance on ESPN while your hand was in a film.
Right.
And so after you left, I started researching. I'm like, called Dave. I'm like, dude, this guy's not only the real deal. Like, he's like the real deal.
I ring-announced WrestleManias, toured all over the world. Yeah, but again, food is my passion. And what's interesting, too, about the video that I sent you, within this past year, have completely redone my hosting reel to solely focus on food.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is my passion. My reel shows it. I didn't know that story about your office, man.
Yeah.
But when I get excited about something, particularly food, and I see it in my head as a host/producer, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted you to see and feel the energy that I could see us creating with this show.
Oh, I called David. I'm like, dude, this guy was like a mini Guy Fieri. Like, we're in the office, and like, because people come in, they have interviews, and I've been told by some people, like, that I'm intimidating because they're coming into a certain. I'm not really. I don't think. Maybe I am. I'm kind of a jackass, but self-awareness. But a lot of people will sit there and they won't talk a lot. Like, I had an interview today, they won't talk a lot. Now, granted, somebody that's going to be host or sales should talk a lot.
Yeah.
But like, you were standing up and you were like reenacting shit. I thought I was like on a show. I'm like looking around, like, where's the camera? So when I called Dave, I'm like, man, this is a tough decision. I said, because number one, I'll find a way to make it happen. I said, but my only fear is he's going to make the rest of us look like we suck because your skill set. I said, but I guess the good avenue there is that he's going to help us all elevate. Because, like, Luis is a beast on camera. Doug's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm decent. But I'm like, we can all learn and create a more well-rounded messaging, because my goal long-term is to have a bigger show somewhere that talks about America's best, but then also have the micro show that just helps those independent restaurants tell their story. Because if there's one thing a lot of small independent restaurants, bigger independents don't do, they don't tell anybody anything. And that's where you come in.
Yeah. Well, all of that to say, just listening to what you had to say there, one thing that I do on the side and I've done for years is host training and consulting. I helped create the host department in WWE. I literally wrote the manual on hosting there. I recruited, trained, developed the hosts there. The Seattle Kraken NHL team, I went and helped train and develop their in-arena host team. And so part of what I want to do with our team as well is to do that sort of coaching if you guys are looking for that. But also for the restaurants out there. I was saying this to someone the other day. They're great at making food and running their business. Maybe they're not as comfortable on camera as they could be. Well, when we go on these restaurant visits, I want to help these restaurant owners. I want to help them on camera. I want to show them how to do it, how to speak to a camera, so that people on the other end feel like they're talking directly to them. So it's a passion for me to, first of all, host a show like this, but then also to know that we can make a difference in helping them, not just in their restaurant, but help them on camera.
Yep.
And I want to bring that to the table also, man.
And there's nobody doing it. That's what I love. Like, I've had friends of mine that, I read a lot. This morning I watched an hour podcast with a guy named Ed Milet, who's just a freaking business genius. And one thing I've always prided myself on is when I'm doing something and somebody that's in my world of business like says I'm crazy or is like, I've never heard of that, I'm like, I'm doing it.
Good.
It's like
right.
It's like this Friday. I'm looking at you don't even know this. I'm looking at a $12 million building that's for sale. That's a commercial real estate project. That's a huge office complex. It's almost fully leased. Great investment opportunity. I was looking at $1 or $2 million properties, and then I thought, just another zero, right?
That's all.
1.2 million, 12 million. Let's just do bigger.
Yeah.
And so whenever I do stuff that like certain people like, I guarantee you, when I tell my dad this, because he's Mr. Conservative these days, he was me when he was younger. He's be like, "Are you insane?"
Right.
And I'm like, that's the reaction I was looking for. And the same thing goes with what we're doing with the restaurants is,
yes.
I'm going to Miami next week. I'm speaking at an event next week in Miami for marketing companies. And when I told them this idea, a lot of people in this room, this idea years ago, and even years before that, other rooms, nobody does that. Like, nobody's traveling. Like, in our business, we help restaurants market. I'm like, well, there's another side of it. Yeah. Yes, help them market, but then we have to help them help themselves.
Yes. Absolutely.
And when I had the idea, I told my banker, Lionel Thomas, I'm breakfast tomorrow. I said, hey, I'm buying this van. It's a $100,000 or so. I'm going to buy this van. We're going to do this, and this with it. And he was excited, but a lot of people thought, like, you're crazy. Like, nobody's doing it. I'm like, there, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is you don't get to where you are without being willing to take those chances on things that you believe in, no matter what everybody else says. It's the whole thing that, I've listened to you talk about red ocean, blue ocean. It's the same thing. You're not going to get to the level that you are, and this business and this brand isn't going to grow if we are not willing to put ourselves out there and take these kind of risks. And look at how the restaurants are succeeding. I mean, I was last week out on the road, not hosting yet, just watching.
I think next week you're hosting a little.
Yeah, baby. First week next week, Wisconsin. Yep. How you doing? We'll be there soon. But just seeing the reaction of these restaurant owners, you're right. It's getting in front of them and educating them in person versus just over the phone or over a Zoom call makes a massive difference.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me, I always talk about with friends of mine, like I wear wherever I go. If I'm at the gym working out doing CrossFit, or I'm at my pool, or I'm at a steakhouse, I'm wearing orange.
Yeah.
And there's always my brand presence. And when I go places, I always talk about it. And it always just kills me when I meet people out and about and they're just rocking normal clothes and not talking. Well, what do you do? I have a restaurant. I'm like, what's the name of it? And like it's like they're shy to tell me. I'm like, dude, you should be shouting from the rooftops who you are, what you do, why you do it, and just making everybody your friend, because everybody loves to go in a restaurant and go, yeah, that's Matt. He's the owner. I know him.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's where I see America's Best Restaurants can really evolve to, is not only helping these restaurants tell their story, but then creating a culture of people that realize, I got to go shout. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, they're all free.
Yeah. And to prove your point also, being out on the road this past week and watching restaurant owners and then watching them do the Facebook Lives or an Instagram Live, and you see that light bulb go off.
Yep.
You see that aha moment when they, this is really cool. And you're right. We're educating them in the field on these things and making them better restaurant owners. And like you said, shout from the rooftops. Talk about your business. Be proud of it.
Yep.
But that does happen. I watched it, man. These restaurant owners are a little shy sometimes. You show them something that they can do, and you're right, it's free. Yep. Facebook Live is free.
Oh, I mean, my first book I wrote, I have never published it, but my first book that I wrote 2015-ish was called Create Your Own Radio Station. And the concept behind that is I would do seminars. I'd be down in Covington at the Revolving Restaurant.
Yeah,
I did seminars there every week for a long time.
Wow.
And I would have 100, 200 people, and I would always draw this terrible map of Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and I'd say, okay, where's your restaurant? He'd be like, oh, I'm here in Covington. Okay, you're in Covington. So if I could tell you, if I told you had a commercial on Q102 every half hour, 52 weeks a year, would you take it? Well, hell yeah. So, okay, great, let's talk about it. So, here's the map. If I look at this map and your restaurant's here, 99.9% of these people are never coming to your restaurant. So if you were to buy advertising on Q102, you just wasted the majority of your money. There's value there, but you went from reaching 15,000 people in a commercial to probably reaching 50. What if I told you could have your own radio station? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, you have a Facebook account, right? Yeah, personal, yeah. 300 friends? Yeah, about. You have a business page? Yeah, we have 1,000 fans. You have LinkedIn? I would walk through it, and I would put it up on a whiteboard, and I'd say, look, your commercial on Q102 would reach, on a great day, 500 people within driving distance of your restaurant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Your Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those reach a hell of a lot more. And those are people you have a connection with.
Yes, and there's a visual there.
Yeah. And so that was the first book I wrote called Create Your Own Radio Station. It talked about how to leverage and harness the power of your social media reach to create your own channel. I wrote the book, and I gave it to a guy who's published my last 3, and one of the comments he made on that book title was like, Matt, makes no sense. He's like, because here's the problem. Most books are bought by people searching a topic. Nobody's going on Google and saying, how do I create a radio station?
Okay, that's fair.
He said, now that title could be used in 5 years, 6 years, once you've got 4 or 5 books published, and people know that Matt Plapp's out, and then you have a book come out by Matt Plapp, and that's the name of it. So eventually that book will be out, like not the exact book, but the title and the idea. But that's what restaurants have today. Is when I started in marketing back in 1999, you had to buy advertising or stand on a street corner.
Yeah.
And I mean like hookers, I mean like signs. Like I wanted to clarify that. You had to stand there with a sign and tell people your business. Now that sign's in people's pockets.
Yep.
and it's free of charge. And
Yes.
the biggest, most powerful opportunity is video.
Yeah. And again, like we talked about with the radio station stuff, with all of these outlets we're talking about, it's all visual, it's all video. And for restaurants, that's so important. I want to see that egg yolk running off of that burger. You know what I mean? I want to see that barbecue sauce getting slathered on some ribs. I don't want to hear it on a commercial. I want to see it. And they can do that for free now. And also, watching their eyes, because, and I get it, as restaurant owners, they say, oh, it's cool we have 1,500 followers, but that's just a number to them.
Yep.
The second you open up Facebook and you see hearts starting to fly up that live,
yeah.
and you see people starting to comment that you didn't even, like, oh my gosh, I love it there. Every time I'm in town, we eat there. That's a major confidence booster, man.
I had a friend who has a restaurant in California, Sean Walchef, Cali BBQ.
Oh, yeah, I've heard you talk about that.
Went live a couple weeks. He was leaving. His wife and kids flew to Bulgaria because that's where his wife's from, and he's Bulgarian descent as well. And he's there like for the whole month of July. But he was still in town, and he was going to create a bunch of content. He went live on TikTok, I think for like 9 hours. Like just turned it live.
Really?
And went around the restaurant and talked. Like I remember seeing him live. I just thought he was live a couple of times. I would pop in and say hi. He was live for the whole time until his phone went dead. And if I remember the stats, I want to say he had close to 1 million people that tuned in at some point.
Man.
Throughout the entire 1 million views or some crazy number. He was telling some guys on a podcast the other day, Restauranttopia, like guess, they're like 500, 10,000, 50,000. I think it was like 1 million views happened in that time of him walking around his restaurant, showing the smoker, showing the chefs, talking to customers.
Yeah.
I mean, it cost him nothing. Except he got a dead cell phone battery at the end
just had to charge it.
Yeah, then he had to go charge it. But there's just so much opportunity there. So let's put you on the spot.
Okay.
You were at Black Rock this past week. You met Eileen.
Yes.
I'm guessing you met Pam up at Woodhaven probably.
Yes.
Yep. So give me like an intro. Give me your Greg intro. Like you're at Black Rock and what we're about to see. Because we always do the episodes. We do a little fire clip beginning.
Yeah.
And we stand up front
Just
and say,
intro?
Yes, give me an intro.
Okay. Oh, we're going into this camera.
Go to this camera right here.
Hey, everyone. I'm Greg Hutson. This is America's Best Restaurants, where we travel the country looking for hidden gems. Not only that, we're interactive because we want your suggestions on your local favorites. Well, whenever I'm in Michigan, this is where I go. Black Rock Bar and Grill. And I know what you're thinking. It's another steakhouse, which it is, but you do the cooking, and it's a lot of fun for the whole family. They have these 800-degree black stones that come out. You can choose the giant ribeye, beautiful New York strip, even seafood, and grill it right there on your table on a black stone rock. Fun for the whole family. And hey, listen, it's going to be done perfectly because you're cooking it, right? We got that and a whole lot more, including some artichoke and Parmesan dip that you are going to love right now on America's Best Restaurants.
Damn, I want to tune in. Now you see why.
All right? Is that okay?
That was freaking fire. Nice.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks,
I
man.
just realized you got an orange band on your watch too.
Yeah, of course.
Like
I wear this every day here. I got to have some kind of orange on when I'm in the building, man.
Well, you thong too, right?
Well,
yeah.
Can we show that?
No, okay.
That's outtakes.
So that's awesome, and that
Thanks,
right
man.
there was amazing, and that's what you did in my office a few times, whether you realized it or not, or what you meant to do it. But
I didn't until you said it today.
Yeah.
I'm just passionate.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I just get these ideas in my head and I get fired up in your office, and now I didn't even realize I did it. I'm like a little embarrassed almost.
Now it's awesome. So what are you most excited for with the journey? You've been around. Your first week, I was on vacation.
Yes.
And you were here in the office just kind of bebopping around with the team. And then last week you went on the road.
Yes.
You and Luis and Austin.
Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah, me, Luis, Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this week you're here in the office because David flew down from Philly. We're going to work on some projects.
Yes.
Next week you, Doug, and Ryan are back on the road.
Yes.
You're going to be doing some hosting. What are you most excited about, and what's maybe something that you're a little nervous about?
Wow. Well, first of all, the food and the travel have always been a passion of mine, and I've seen some of the restaurants that we have coming up in Wisconsin this week. And I can't wait to come see you guys. That's all I'm
You
gonna
got your
say.
bib ready.
Absolutely. But you know what I think, and I didn't realize this until I went on the road this past week with Luis and Ryan to watch episodes. Because I'm really excited to listen and to help tell stories of these independent restaurant owners. And I knew that's what we do, but I didn't realize how excited I was going to be about that. Because, we think of things when we go into a restaurant as, oh, I love the food here. I love the way they do their ribs. Their chicken is incredible. But with independent restaurants, it really hit home for me this past week that behind all of that are real people with real lives and real families that spend 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day in these restaurants, sometimes 7 days a week. And we go in and we think about the food, but the real people behind those restaurants need their stories told so that we can appreciate it that much more. So I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, but it was an epiphany this past week, if that makes sense.
Oh, it's wild to hear the stories.
Yeah.
What's even more wild to me is, because the team, when they talk, we find restaurants, we have a team of people that find the restaurants, and then we have a team that call them and line up a phone conversation with one of the executive producers, and you'll have those conversations. And I was talking to a place that we haven't visited yet. Hopefully we get a chance, but it was a brother and sister, and their mom and dad came over with the two of them when they were itty-bitty, like a couple years old, from Italy, like migrated here, or immigrated, I guess is the right one, not migrated, immigrated here,
Sure.
and opened this restaurant. And they were telling me this story that was unbelievable. And I said, well, let me ask you a simple question. I'm on your website right now. That story you just told me is condensed into a picture and 2 sentences.
Ugh.
Explain to me how that's doing it justice.
Yeah.
And they couldn't come up with it. And there's a lot of there's some skepticism. Restaurants don't know who we are yet. We've only done like 800 episodes or so, which I think Guy said a couple weeks ago. I saw on a podcast where he'd first 16 years of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, they did 1,300 restaurants. We've only done in a year.
Yeah.
700 to 800.
Wow.
So we're going to hit 10,000 in 5 years. People will know who we are in a big way in the next 18 months.
Right.
But when I hear that, like I talk to these people and they're like, well, yeah, we'll think about it. I'm like, what is there to
What's
think
there to think about?
Like,
you just told this incredible story.
yeah, and nobody else knows it. But there's also a context to tell it in, because if I'm sitting here telling the story of America's best restaurants on a camera with one of my employees versus being interviewed like Sean Walchef had me on the Entrepreneur Magazine podcast a couple months ago,
Yeah.
you're on a different light. When
Yes.
consumers see, like what you did here on the camera, that Black Rock intro, which, by the way, you had no clue that was coming.
No, I didn't actually.
And
put me on the spot.
And
with
I'm
that one.
hungry now. And like you went to 2 Black Rocks, first time you ever probably been there in your life.
Yes.
And
yes.
that was what came out of it. That right there, when a consumer sees that, the credibility is instantly transferred. My dad calls it the transfer of trust.
Okay.
That when I walk into a car dealership to sell them advertising when I was in radio, I'm just a guy selling advertising. Mm-hmm. If I walk in the car dealership with the attorney for the car dealership and the owner sees it and goes, oh, my God, that's your guy. It's a transfer of trust.
Yes.
It's automatically assumed, okay, we got to know this guy.
Yes.
Well, it's the same way here, that when consumers see the name America's Best Restaurants, they see the brand, they see the van, they hear a voice like yours, Luis, Doug's, mine, and they feel that come through the screen, that story that person just told about coming over from Italy is 1,000 times more powerful.
That's very true. I wouldn't have thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. The transfer of trust. I like
Transfer
that.
of trust.
I like that. And with what we do also, speaking of the stories, and that what I love is we come in with what I call the 30,000-foot view, right? They're in the trenches every day in the restaurant. They're grinding. They're cooking food. We come in with all of these ideas that can help them get their stories out there, and I love being a part of that. And you're absolutely right that transfer of trust, I just never thought of it that way, but makes total sense.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
And anything you're nervous about, or like I don't get a whole lot of nervous when I do new stuff, but at the same time, there's always some like, okay, I got to figure this out.
Yeah, some jitters because I don't want to give too much away, but as you know, we are working on some formatting things.
Some tweaks.
We're
going to Turf Club on Thursday, right?
Yes, we're going to go to Turf Club. We're going to try out some of the ideas and tweaks that we have. And
I was told I could come as long as I didn't say a word.
That's it. Hands behind your back, mouth closed.
Yeah. And David's always seen how I operate with our team, and we've got 46 or 47 people now on the team, and I'm, there's some things obviously I have my hands on, but there's a lot of things like, you know what? If we can all as a team collectively work together and create something that's badass.
Yeah.
But he's like, you can come. Just do what you normally do. Don't say anything. Just watch. I'm like, okay, let's watch. I'll sit there and eat burgers.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. I got a little nervous today. So I walk in, I see David first thing, and we're talking about working on the shot list today and the new format, and then you walk out and you go and you said to David and I, were like, hey guys, we need to sit down. You need to tell me all about this. I need to hear everything. And David looks at you and goes, don't worry about it. We got this. I'm like, I think David just got us both fired. I don't know. And you just stopped for a minute and you said, yeah, okay, you're right. That's fine. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like for a boss to say that and allow us to do that is really exciting. So you ask if I'm nervous about anything. Not nervous, but just a little anxious because I see in my mind what we're going to do. And I know it's going to work. I just can't wait to see it come to fruition on a camera. If that makes sense.
Love it. I'm stoked.
Me too, man.
Welcome
Me too,
to
brother.
the family.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And thank you guys, too, for tuning in.
That's all we got for this episode of MPTV. We will see you next time.